Here's something. Every time you go onto your phone or onto your computer and you go Google something, you can probably thank Michiel Bakker for making that possible. Because he is the director of global food services for Google, and it takes 40,000 people to make sure that it works every single day, every single moment. And he keeps them all happy and well-fed. It is a massively complex system, as you might imagine. They serve over 10 million meals a year, and it's a core focus of Google's employee satisfaction strategy. It's also famously excellent. I remember when the Google offices in New York opened, the restaurant critic of the Village Voice at the time, Robert Sietsema, his daughter happened to work for Google. He snuck in there and was like, I can just do my job forever from this very perch. So I would love to introduce to you Michiel Bakker.
All systems are go. Here we have a go for auto sequence start.
Google has a food program that started back in the fall of 1999 because the founders wanted to have really healthy food accessible to our employees. At TGIFs, we'd always have birthday cake. Food was always incorporated with our traditions, but there actually is a really strategic business purpose behind it. We want people interacting. We have a true belief and feeling that people can learn from each other, and the more interaction you have, the better our exchange of ideas is always going to be.
Chef Charlie was the original chef hired by Larry and Sergey to start the food program.
Google's program is the original program. It is the benchmark for quality. Everyone else now copies, but Google still does it the best.
Just think about the scale alone at Google. We started feeding 60 meals a day in the very beginning, and now we're feeding over 60,000 meals a day.
Whether it's feedback through Foodback, Food Plus, Food Discuss, live comments, emails, you name it, we get it. And that's incredibly well appreciated by all of us because we own this together.
Sustainability is everything. If it's not sustainable, you shouldn't be doing it.
We have, as an organization, an incredible responsibility with what we buy and from whom. This is not just about what we can do based on our money spent, or based on our personal beliefs. We have an incredible opportunity to affect industry changes.
You think about all of the other companies and corporations that look to Google for the vision, trend-setting nature that Google represents. There's just so much potential in making a positive impact in the world. And so how could we not want to be a part of it?
Times it makes me cry. It's really very cool to see what's happened now.
Powering moonshots from a food perspective is really starting to think about the impact we can have globally on food and how we can affect that change.
Good morning. So my name is Michiel Bakker, and I'm responsible for Google's global food program. And clearly it's not about me. We have an incredible team that actually makes sure that every day we feed over 44,000 Googlers around the world with fabulous fresh food. The reason why we do that is not just because we can. We have a very strong philosophy behind our program. And our mission is to inspire and to enable Google's community to make food choices and to enjoy food experiences that support them in being in their best. So we truly believe that food and food experiences are a great driver for the overall health, well-being, and performance of Googlers. But we do that in the context of Google, and Google likes to actually work on big global challenges. So in that context, we have defined the vision of our food program as to inspire and to enable the world to make food choices and to use food experiences to develop more sustainable lifestyles and communities. What we're trying to do with our program and what we're learning together is to make the world a better place as well. So this is not about us. This is about what we can do together to really figure out what you can do with food and how food can help people. So our context. So as of today, Google has over 70 office locations around the world. And an office location can be an office for just one, as well as an office location like we have in Mountain View here in California, where we have over 20,000 employees. As of today, we're in 40,000, we're in 40 countries, and we actually have more than 44,000 Googlers. The way we bring our food experiences to life is in our cafes. We have over 150 cafes around the world, and daily we serve over 60,000 meals. Another area that we have are our micro kitchens. And think about your kitchen at home. Is where you want to get a drink, whether it's coffee, tea, boiled water, a drink, you go over there. We have 600 of those. The work that we have, or our food services, are being brought to life on a daily basis by 45 great vendor partners that we have around the world. Whether it's Restaurant Associates, Bon Appetit, Aramark, Sodexo, those type of organizations bring our food experiences to life. And altogether, we have at this moment in time about 2,300 of their team members working in our cafes and micro kitchens. It's not just about our office environments. So we actually operate in very remote areas as well. Think about our data centers. In some very remote places, we bring great food experiences as well. The key question for our team is, how can we help people to be at their best today, tomorrow, and over the long haul with food experiences? And that brings me to the question that we have during this conference, Kitchens Connected. What role does technology play in our world, and how can technology help all of us to bring great food experiences to life? So I would break it out into technology that is truly focused on operations to support, as well as user-focused technology. And as you can imagine, we work and live in the Google environment. So technology truly comes to life in what we do with food on a daily basis. And there are many tools that are available to us, but also to you for free around the world as well. Think about maps, think about shopping, think about play, search. There are so many different things. So for example, use search to learn more about one of our 2 chefs in London today, Jason Atherton. YouTube. YouTube can be a great channel both for us to push out material, as well as for consumers, guests, clients, to learn more about us or about whatever that might be. Google Maps, a great tool as well. G+ and everything that comes with that. Google Play. But I would like to highlight 2 tools that are available to all of us and that truly have impacted what we're trying to do on our side. The first one is working together. In the good old days, when you're working with your team on a document, it basically went as follows. Somebody started a document, closed it, emailed it out, somebody else opened it up, made changes, sent it back. And if you were working as a team on that, that became really, really complicated because which version was used to make what kind of edits. Now imagine today's environment, and in today's environment, we work in over 40 countries as a food team. So how does it truly work over now? Just to give you an example, a couple of months ago, I was flying together with two colleagues from the West Coast to New York for a conference, and we had to get a presentation together. So in today's environment, you can be 30,000 feet in the air, working online on a presentation and making concurrent changes to the same presentation. That didn't really work a couple of years ago. So I want to give you an example, actually show you a quick video of what Google Apps, the technology that we haven't used ourselves, can really help a team to work so much more efficient and actually co-create what you can do.
Agility, playfulness, courage, and love are definitely.
So that technology is available to everybody, and we use it on a daily basis because it's so much fun and it's so efficient to work together on one document that lives in Google Cloud. The second one that we really use, and we can use it both to reach out to our partners, as well as to really collaborate together. But more importantly, it is a new platform as well to help end users, and you can commercialize it. So what started as video conferencing technology, the Hangouts, that could be used instead of using your mobile phone or even the landline, you can as of today, use Google technology as well as technology that is available with our competitors to go online and to do video conferencing. So as one of our roles is to really enable our end users to make better decisions, the question is, how can we use our technology to make it bigger and better? And then if you think about technology in Google, so we get the opportunity to really work with new product development very early on. So Hangout was for Google a great tool that can be utilized by so many to help the lives of others as well. So we went earlier this year from Hangout to Help Out.
Too much light is going to overexpose the photo. I'm going to tell you what to do. We're going to fix it. Now on the right side, I want you to look for the curve tool.
See if you can soften your shoulders towards each other. Yeah, there you go.
Put your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the D string, and put your ring finger on the 3rd fret of the A string. Give that a try. Yeah, that's it. Perfect.
And I'm gonna have you sweep that color right underneath, just to really give them a little bit of extra definition. See, that looks great. That really brings out those big, beautiful eyes.
So, before you fold the egg whites into the cake, the trick is to stir just the first third in. That way, you get a more even texture throughout the cake.
So Help Out is now a product that is available to all of us to really help individuals to just go over here. That is a tool that can be used, for example, for cooking schools. So if you, for example, would like to give live cooking lessons to multiple people, that is now available. So it's a new platform, but it's a clear indication of how technology can help us, you, to actually to make it a better place, as well as to commercialize what you already have as of today. And over here, you're going to see one of the chefs over here that you probably are very familiar with, Douglas Keane, is now using Helpouts, Hangouts, to actually to sell his products online to a much broader audience. But what we're going to do next, before we go there, so just think about the technology as well. So we went from the past to where we are as of today. But then think about the future. Think about the future. Think about Project Loon, is where we're using balloons to provide internet services to less populated areas like in New Zealand. Think about Google Glass. Think about the self-driving car. And if you combine that, think about what you could do with, for example, a service as Google Shopping Express. A self-driving car who's going to provide you with your groceries. And that is technology that is already available as of today. It is just a matter of bringing it all together. So I truly believe that technology will be a great enabler for all of our businesses over the months and quarters to come. And now we're going to use our technology to go back to London, where we have our 2 chefs at our offices over there, and actually have the discussion. So with that, Francis.
Thank you, Michael. I didn't know about the Helpouts. That's kind of awesome. I'll do this from home next time. And I'll charge you money, too. That'd be great. It'd be like $25. It's like I'll just put on pants, and it'll be fabulous. So now we are going to go to London. We're going to... Jesus. I'm sorry. I wasn't aware of the... this kind of technology was going to be put into play. Can we see? Wait, that's me. Is that me? I know I'm pretty, but I mean, I don't know if you need to see. Hello. So, joining us again from London are two of the most acclaimed chefs in all of Britain. On the right is Chef Atul Kochhar, the chef of Benares. In a city famous for having tremendous Indian food, he is the first Indian chef to win a Michelin star, which he has done twice in 2 different restaurants. He's also an avid Twitterer and a TV presenter. To the left is Chef Jason Atherton, the chef of the acclaimed Pollen Street Social, and the owner of an expanding intercontinental restaurant group with locations not only in London, but in Shanghai, Singapore, and Hong Kong. He's also a tremendously popular British food media personality, a winner and then later host of the series The Great British Menu. Hello, chefs.
Hi.
Hi. They can see me. They can really see me. Also supposed to join us, you may have seen earlier, was Chef Marcus Waring, a tremendous chef. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it. There was a rumor that he saw a picture of me, decided I wasn't pretty enough, and so it wasn't really worth it, but that's just a rumor. But chefs, hello. So I want to. You can hear me, okay?
Yes.
Fabulous, and we can hear you. So, Chef Atherton, I'd love to start with you. With so many far-flung restaurants, have you found that changing information technology has changed the way that you can manage these restaurants, that you can keep your head around them at all times?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the technology out there today, everything from TripAdvisor to Hungry Go Nowhere, we're using Singapore, to Chinese-speaking websites up in Hong Kong and Shanghai to keep an eye on what people are saying about our restaurants, what people are liking, what people aren't liking, the way certain cultures react to certain type of restaurants. We can find that information all via the internet, where obviously, years ago that was not the case.
So what you're saying is you actually keep track of the restaurants, not just through your staff, but also you're monitoring what people are saying in social media. You're looking at reviews, and you're trying to figure out what the picture is over there that way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, data now, the collaboration of data through all different mediums is crucial to owning and running restaurants. Not only are we just chefs and restaurateurs, but it's about inspiring people, collecting this information, sitting down with your teams and saying, okay, this is what we're getting right, but what are we getting wrong and how can we get it right? And having that information to hand at such speed is crucial to running an international restaurant.
And Chef Atul, and I see that you're an avid Twitterer. I see that you use it to keep in touch with your guests and your fans and colleagues. Is that an important part of what you do, or you? What made you decide that you wanted to do that and spend part of your day on that?
Well, I think Twitter has become an integral part of a restaurateur's life, in my opinion. It's just not only Twitter, but there are many platforms. As Jason was saying, that TripAdvisor has become the biggest food critique for us. I don't think we fear food journalists that much anymore, but every person who's sitting and eating in the dining room, we know they would be posting their blogs or their views immediately, influencing so many people instantly. So the game is even tougher now, to be honest. So technology is not only checking us, it's also actually keeping people updated. But at the same time, keeping the things in the right place in a lot of ways. As a restaurateur, I can log on and check through Twitter, through Facebook, and many more platforms, to be honest, that how my restaurant is performing, whether my service is being right or not, whether I'm buying the right ingredients or not. I think it's gone absolutely in a haywired way in all the directions. And for the first time in 25 years I've been cooking, I feel that I have a lot more understanding and control of my business than I have ever did.
That's interesting. But I want to ask you actually about this idea that, you're not afraid of the food journalists anymore. I mean, I recognize actually the British food media are sort of famously fearsome. So maybe it is sort of culturally a different relationship. But when you say that you're not afraid of them, does that mean on one level it sounds like the cooking is much more of a direct conversation with the guest if you're now looking more towards TripAdvisor for their feedback. But I mean, does that also, what's the pitfall of that? I mean, do you feel like there's a situation where you might be where you're trying to please too many people, and maybe it's easy, maybe it's difficult to hold on to a vision that you originally had. That, like, in the past, maybe you were just trying to convince or demonstrate your vision to a particular journalist, and now do you feel like you're being pulled in many different directions by many different opinions?
No, I think it's to the contrary. To be honest, through the media platform, we are being able to demonstrate exactly what we actually want to do in much more easier way. So through the help of Twitter, Facebook, or whichever media we use, we can describe that what emotions we are going through, what ingredients we are going to use, what treatment we are going to do, sometimes show really good pictures of our kitchen, the work in progress, and the ingredients which are going to become a dish later in the evening. We can actually demonstrate that pretty instantly to people. And that has much wider and huge effect than a journalist writing down how she felt or he felt while eating that dish in a dump room or whatever, the way they describe it. It's much better. It's firsthand, in my opinion. You're coming to my home in a way, and I'm telling you what I'm doing in my home and how I'm going to cook for you. When you come there, you actually feel welcomed and you feel connected. So I think it's actually helping the diners rather than the readers.
That's an interesting idea. I think the notion of wanting to show the process of the dish, the process of the kitchen, the process of the restaurant. I mean, I think that's something that we've seen as something that diners have wanted for years now. I mean, I think with kitchens now being visible for the first time, when we first started open kitchens, and you start having chef's tables in the kitchen, that it seems like a continuation of that idea, right? I mean, it's this idea of exposing the guts a little bit, but in a way that makes guests feel like they're more engaged and more a part of the experience.
It is indeed, and I think obviously the guest wants to see the kitchen or sit on the chef's table, but also for the chefs. Someone like Jason, I'm just jumping onto the other side of it now. Someone like Jason, who is going to have several restaurants across the globe, for him to be able to connect to all the restaurants at the same time, he would like to talk to his chefs from time to time. Through media, he can do it fairly instantly. I've not seen it, but I've heard that Chef Thomas Keller, when he's cooking in Per Se, actually he can keep an eye on what's happening in French Laundry through the monitors. And that's amazing. I would love to do that sitting in my home, in my kitchen. But I think I would have to wait for that.
So Amy was just asking Jared, what are the future iterations and features of Chef's Feed? What are the ideas that he's going to present in terms of how chefs can connect with the app users?
Thanks, Amy. So, well, first of all, we just launched our website today, actually about 30 minutes ago, which is pretty exciting. So now we are agnostic across all platforms, so you can access us from a Android, BlackBerry, iPhone, tablet, whatever smartphone you have. So that happened literally during that last presentation. That's exciting news. We're going to continue to build features for chefs. We're on their side. We know what their pain points are. We want to continue to identify what these pain points are and try to solve them. We're working on a feature right now. It's going to allow chefs to upload recipes directly to their phone. They'll be able to put a price tag on that, just like artists are selling songs on the iTunes store. So we'll be serving up analytics to our chefs around the holidays. We'll tell them, hey, put up your quiche recipe, because the %1 searched for recipe on Google right now is quiche. Holidays, people have family over, they need to make something big. Chefs can put up their recipe, put it up there for 99 cents, $2 or whatever. We'll take a cut of that, just like iTunes is taking money from musicians to put up their songs. You can sell tracks, not albums. You can sell recipes, not cookbooks. So we'll continue to develop various tools for chefs to generate incremental revenue in their off-peak hours. There's a lot of costs associated with running a restaurant, and if you can monetize off your recipes without having to have all the costs that go along with service and sourcing, big win for the chefs there. So thank you, Amy.
Manage to customize the food to all the different Google locations you have, given the high standards that your millennial employees must have throughout your different sites?
The way it works is that we cook from fresh with a different menu at all locations on a daily basis. So the chefs that we have in each of the locations have built a great rapport with their quote-unquote local clientele, So they really cook for their local audience. So they have total freedom in what they can do. So it is the direct interaction to start with. And then the other one, we have a variety of tools, bells and whistles as well, that Googlers will use to provide feedback. So we always joke, we don't even have to ask for feedback because it comes our way anyway. So, so it's cooking for your local audience and giving them the freedom to do what they do really, really well. So we have very, very talented chefs in the different locations. So they get to exercise their creativity on a daily basis.
Thank you, Mike. Apparently, we have London back. The colonies have accepted their overlords once again. So we're going to bring the chefs from London back, but we'll continue with audience participation. And if you have questions for Chef Jason Atherton, again, or Chef Atul Kochhar, please feel free to fire away on those as well. But right now we have...
This one isn't on now? Oh, there it is. I have a question for Nick, actually. So I'm really interested in a lot of the ebook, next wave print technology, but a lot of the examples that I've been seeing are people who are already sort of established and had a lot of clout. Do you know any examples of anybody who's been able to do something to elevate their own presence without having that?
Sure. Hello. 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 The big challenge, I think, with anything that you're producing yourself is distribution. If you are not famous or if you do not have a big marketing platform already, it's harder to get it out there and in front of lots of people. The funny thing is when you look at what ebooks are out there and to some extent apps, it's very disparate. There is, at the very top, high quality products that were very expensive, things like Chef's Feed, things like the ebooks produced by traditional publishers like 10-Speed. And then there's this void, and then at the bottom there is a lot of really ugly stuff produced by your mom. And you know,
your mom.
Your mom's just
your mom.
Your mom. And those are just, you know, hobby projects for a lot of people. But what we're seeing is folks who have some amount of presence in the middle, food bloggers, food writers, media outlets can quickly produce and easily produce ebook and other digital products that will fill that space in the middle and get more attention. If you go to Apple right now and look at like the most downloaded digital cookbooks, 9 out of the top 10 are like the paleo diet ebook and the gluten-free ebook, and it's something that some guy, you know, in his underwear made. I see that changing though. I see more traditional publishers.
4 underwear references in this session, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing gets sexier than today.
To actually answer your question, my point is, I think there is room. If you build a high-quality product, even if you do so without spending lots of money, it will get noticed.
I mean, I think on some level there just has to be. There still has. I mean, I think Nick is totally right in that. You know, on some, you know, we want to think of these technologies as breaking down all the barriers, and they have technologically, but they haven't necessarily culturally, and they haven't necessarily socially. So if you have social advantages like, hey, I'm really freaking famous, you're going to have advantages when you use the technology as well. And I think it's important for us to recognize that so that we're not, you know, Pollyanna-ish when we go into it and we're like, oh, it's a total level playing field now. It's like, well, it is on some level and it's not on others. But what does allow, what there is much more room now is for someone who isn't already super famous, who doesn't have all the connections with these traditional old networks, to have a great idea. I mean, the whole thing with viral videos and memes, right? Like every single viral video and every single meme that you have clicked on and laughed at and shared with your friends was something that was probably created by someone who wasn't a famous viral video maker, right? Like that's not how that works. It's someone hit upon something that was really compelling, probably with cats, and now you think, I need to share this with all my cat and non-cat loving friends.
To jump on your point real quick, the other thing we're talking about at this conference is millennials. I don't know if there are any actually in this room, but do we count?
No.
No. Okay.
Absolutely.
But if you look at the data, millennials are more accustomed to consuming this information on phones and tablets and computers, whereas us old fogies are still reading cookbooks and magazines and newspapers. Obviously, that's shifting, but I think we are setting the stage and the precedent for millennial consumers to grow up being used to cooking from a phone, to be used to cooking from their laptop in the kitchen. And it doesn't mean that it's going to surpass print media in the cooking world anytime soon, but just speaking to the publisher of 10 Speed Press a couple days ago, I was asking him about his ebook numbers, and 3-4 years ago, his sales were in the very little, almost negligible. Every year they've doubled since. They are still a small percentage of their overall revenue. It's still about 10% of the revenue compared to what they sell for print books, but every single year it's doubling. So there is a market for that kind of audience.
There's an audience question. Hi, I have a question for, I'm the audience. I have a question for Chef Jason in London, actually. And if we can bring him back on the screen. Yes, here we go. Welcome back. And I want to ask you a little bit about, we are at Worlds of Flavor, and so with all the restaurants that you have a world of flavor at your fingertips. And so how does having restaurants, moving a little bit from technology to creativity, how does having restaurants in all these places impact your creative process, the type of flavors that you do? Do you have is it the same cuisine in every restaurant or not? And how do your restaurants outside of London, outside of the UK, impact what's on the menu in London?
Sure. I mean, basically, in a nutshell, I'm a British chef. So all my restaurants in London serve what we call modern British cuisine, and they're using British ingredients served in a creative, modern way. But the minute we step outside of the British Isles, that obviously no longer applies. So we use the same techniques and sensibilities in producing this cuisine, but using local ingredients. I think it's important that we're sustainable, we're sensible with local cultures and what people tend to like to eat. But at the same time, I'm not going to open a restaurant in Shanghai and try and cook Chinese food, right? Because I'm from Britain, and we know nothing about Chinese food. So it'd just be crazy for me to turn up into China and start trying to mess around with Chinese ingredients I have no sensibility about. So I am fascinated by different cultures. So what I try and do is like take things like spices and just subtle touches and try and introduce them into the cuisine without interfering with its originality. Because the minute you start doing that, because fusion food can become really nasty if it's not done properly, right? It's really hard not to lose its identity when it becomes too much of a fusion, and then it becomes much of a muchness, really. So I always try and make sure that we stick to our roots, which is, in fact, when I was in Hong Kong just recently, I sort of do this trip every 5 weeks. From London, I go to Singapore, then Singapore, Hong Kong, Shanghai, and then home. And I was getting interviewed in Hong Kong and by a Japanese journalist. And they said to me, describe your cuisine. And I said, well, do you know much about British cuisine? And she said, no, not really. And I said, well, my cuisine is meat and 2 veg. And she said, what do you mean meat and 2 veg? I said, well, in Britain, that's what we eat. We eat a protein and 2 vegetables. And she was like, yeah, but it must be more in depth than that. I said, no, that is it. In Britain, we eat meat and 2 veg. And up until 20 years ago, we ate it pretty badly. But now it's getting better. And so every dish I create has some sort of protein and a garnish, what we call the 2 veg, and it would build up around that. And that's how we do it. But if in Singapore, we'll try and use ingredients people are used to in Singapore, and Hong Kong, it's the same, and vice versa.
But Chef Jason, how have you found that specifically each of those restaurants have been influenced by their local context? I mean, does the restaurant in Shanghai feel and taste differently than the one in Hong Kong?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even though it's in mainland China, you still have, you have really good seasons there, and you get, like really great wild mushrooms, you get really great vegetables, but we're still struggling with like on the beef front, like beef is beef. and it's like, it's not beef is not beef. There's lots of different types, different breeds, different ways to treat it, and each new area you go to, you face different challenges. Like in Singapore, every single item pretty much is imported in. So you have to, you're facing that. We're getting organic vegetables flown down from Malaysia. We're bringing in shellfish from Japan, and so forth and so forth. So each different restaurant brings its own different challenges, for sure.
And do you find yourself, though, back in London, do you find yourself influenced by what you're learning and what your chefs are doing in those other restaurants? Do you see a sort of connection between all the different restaurants?
Yeah. I mean, most reviews written about my restaurants in London call my food eclectic and say that it's British food with with a little bit, not an Asian twist, because I hate that word, but I do bring a lot of spices home with me, and we play with them and that type of stuff. So yeah, for sure. But food, food's there to be creative, right? So.
Right. Chef Atul, actually, I want to ask you a question in a similar vein. You have also a very British restaurant in that you are really committed to the idea of it being a British restaurant. You use British ingredients, and yet your food is obviously very influenced by your heritage, your Indian heritage, and by your research into different regional cuisines in India. How do you kind of square those two ideas? How does that work for you creatively?
I think what Jason is doing outside UK, I'm doing outside India here in the UK. That's what I'm doing. So I have kept true connections with my roots. I obviously research my food, and I inspire upon my Indian background, and I use traditional methods. But obviously, I have, living in the United Kingdom for the last 20 years, I think I've crossed the fence, and I'm here to embrace everything that's grown here. So for me, other than spices, everything is homegrown. We buy everything locally. We use the seasons in the United Kingdom, and we follow all the trends which are happening here. So in a lot of ways, what Jason is saying, I would totally agree with him, that in China, he's using all the local ingredients. So instead of just doing carrots, he might be doing bok choy, if I'm not wrong. Here, I will reach out for salsify and the asparagus when they are in season, or parsnips and turnips. So going back to what Jason said, meat and two veg, I think if you peer upon other cultures, they all have their own strengths, the way they eat and the way they bring the food on the table. In India, it has always been lots of ingredients happening together on one plate. But at the same time, it makes a wholesome meal. And it's often, if it's not a meat, then it'll be a lentil, which will be the center of the plate, which will kind of combine with the other ingredients. And I follow the same ethos. So here, obviously, it's a largely meat-eating country, so I have to play around the meat a lot. And that's what we do. So I use venison. I use, from time to time, I don't use beef in my restaurant because it's called Benares. Giving respect to Hindu ethos, I have not done that. But anything else, game, anything that is available in the season, or we are going through a great vegetable season, that would be the center of the plate, and the other ingredients are decided around that. So yes, I follow strong British Indian philosophy on my plate.
But it sounds like it's not just a simple matter of ingredient substitution, right? Do you feel like the cuisine that you grew up in and the cuisine that the context you've existed in have really begun to transform one another in the restaurant?
It has indeed. I often say this, that when a family moves from their original country to a new location, they always take a piece of their culture, their cuisine, their country with them. And when they start living, in my case, I left India and came here, and when I started living in the United Kingdom, I started interacting with the outer world, and the outer world has come inside now. And I actually cannot distinguish between what is outside and what is inside. For me, This is home. And when I go back to India, I'm actually looking around for more influences. I'm bringing influences from there to here. So I think there comes a time when you adapt totally. And I think the prime example would be what you have in America. You call New York Italian, and there's Italian.
Sure.
So what we have is British Indian, and there's Indian. Sure. So that's the stage we have reached.
Right. And they're distinct, but they're part of the people who live there, and they're part of people. They're part of that culture inherently now. So I think with that...
We have actually come so far. Sorry, Lam. I've come so far that we are getting chefs from India to come and train with us so that they can take these influences back to India to showcase that how Indian food has moved on.
Wow. Well, all right. So I think the theme that we keep seeing over and over again is this idea of what is near and what is far and what's outside and what's inside is continually shifting. I don't think it's always in one direction, but it's changing and it's moving, and it behooves us all as chefs, as restaurateurs, as professionals, and just as people to sort of understand that we're always in this state of flux. Thank you so much in London to Jason Atherton and Atul Kochhar, here to Jared Rivera, Nick Foshall, Michiel Bakker, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.